Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I am Luke Monster, and today we're going to be talking about the top 10 Star Wars Z Black Series figures that are desperately in need for a brand new sculpt. If you do collect the Black Series regularly and you follow my channel, you should know that there are a ton of amazing Star Wars Z Black Series figures out there, some of them just the best version of this figure that any company has made. But you should also know that there are some horrendous figures out there that just haven't been remade and are desperately in need for a remake. So make sure to go down, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's go ahead and jump right into the first honorable mention spot. So jumping into the first honorable mention spot, I had to give it to Hoth Luke. This figure is one of the worst figures Hasbro has ever made, hands down. The face sculpt on this guy is horrible, especially on the archive figure. It has just a really glazed, glossy look. It's hard to explain, but it is not good. That plus the horrible articulation and really poorly balanced figure, it definitely needs a brand new sculpt. But I didn't put this in the top 10 just because I believe it's one of Luke's least influential outfits in the entire movies. It's not super important to the plot, and all in all, it's not his best look, so it didn't quite make the top 10. Moving past honorable mentions and looking at the top 10, number 10 goes to A New Hope Darth Vader, and you'll see a lot of New Hope figures on this list. It's a similar trend, but this figure is honestly, it's okay, and that's why he's at the number 10 spot. It gets the job done for what it's supposed to be, but there have been a lot of newer Vaders in the line that have a ton of improvements that have just shown to be much better than this previous version. I think the biggest thing here is the butterfly joints. The butterfly joints on the Empire Strikes Back and the newer Return of the Jedi version coming out are leaps and bounds better. Obviously, this one doesn't even have butterfly joints, so some improved articulation as well as some paint apps here and there could really improve this figure. And it's one of Vader's more iconic looks. It's his first appearance in A New Hope, as well as appearing in Rogue One. So it's quite interesting. He actually did get an archive release slated for 2024. So instead of making a new mold for this guy, Hasbro's just re-releasing the plain old version that quite frankly needs a remake. Coming in at the number 9 spot is another New Hope character, but it's not a named character, it's actually an army builder, and it is the Rebel Trooper. Now, the Rebel Trooper itself, it's not a super old figure, and quite frankly, it's not too bad. It kind of stands up on its own today. It's got good photoreal and decent articulation, but in 2020 as well as in 2023 here, Hasbro has released the Hoth Rebel Soldier as well as the Endor Commando, and both of these figures show a ton of great qualities with really good articulation as well as a ton of customability with different faces, which you can swap them out so each character looks unique, as well as different backpacks and weapons and accessories and so forth. So if Hasbro was to carry over these traits onto a brand new Rebel Trooper body, it would be one of the best army builders in the line, especially because every single one of these guys wears the same outfit. The customability would really only come down to the weapons and the faces, and I think Hasbro could easily release one of these, and I think it would be a really good figure. So it's not necessarily that this figure needs a re-release, but it has so much potential if Hasbro was to do one. Coming in at the number 8 spot is the Imperial Officer body. Now, this isn't one specific character. This is just the generic Imperial Officer body they use for every Imperial Officer. It's quite a few years old now, and quite frankly, it's not the best articulation-wise. Now, again, you don't necessarily need great articulation for an officer. They kind of just stand there. They don't need to get in any dynamic poses, but if Hasbro was to update this figure, it would desperately need some pinless legs and definitely some more range of motion at the arms. It's got some very shortcut arms, so it can't get past 90, and it could definitely use some improvement. The main reason I added this to the list is because Hasbro did release the brand new Imperial Officer Tala, and she is actually a pretty much new sculpt from head to toe, brand new torso and brand new legs, and I think for the most part she's a really good figure. But from what I could tell from looking at the photos, it does look like her arms are reused from the previous Imperial Officer, and it's something that desperately could have saved this figure, but they reused the arms with the poor articulation, and unfortunately it's just not as good as it should be. Moving back to the New Hope figures, at the number 7 spot, we do have A New Hope Han Solo, and quite frankly, this is not a good figure. The articulation is horrendous, the face sculpt is not good at all, Even with the brand new Power of the Force re-release that did have the photoreal, they applied photoreal to it, but they didn't make a new sculpt for the head, and so when you do photoreal on old sculpts, it just doesn't come out good, and unfortunately this one does not look good. This one is in desperate need for a remake just because of how iconic this version of Han Solo is. I 100% believe the New Hope version of Han is the most iconic version, and this figure is not doing him any justice. Honestly, I think I can without a doubt say that this is the worst version of Han we have in the line, which is a shame because it's the most iconic version of Han. And that's why I believe that he is in desperate need of a new sculpt. With Hasbro's technology they have today, they can make this one of the best Han Solos ever released over any figure line. If you give him pinless look, the brand new photoreal application with the Harrison Ford likeness, it would be a really, really good figure. Then coming in at the number 6 spot is another New Hope figure, and that is Farm Boy Luke. Another one of Luke Skywalker's most iconic outfits in all of Star Wars, and this figure is not doing him any justice. Like I said, the big baggy cloak of a tunic does not work. They need to go to a harder plastic for this figure to really work, and I think I can, again, without a doubt say this is the worst likeness to Mark Hamill on any Black Series figure. It is not good. Even with the updated photoreal on the Power of the Force release, it's still not good. And if you look at a figure like the SH Figure Arts version, it looks incredible. So I know Hasbro can do justice. A brand new sculpt, give him the hard plastic for the tunic, and it could be really, really good. Coming in at the number 5 spot is Hutt Slayer Leia. Now this one is definitely a controversial figure, but fans did get a glimmer of hope back in 2020 whenever she got second in the archive fan vote, but unfortunately she did end up losing, and so we have not seen any more of this figure see the light of day, which is unfortunate. And quite frankly, at this point, I would be happy with just a re-release, not even a remake. But if they were to re-release it, a remake would make this figure leaps and bounds better. If you update it to the pinless articulation all the way around, you get her a little bit more to scale of what the actual version of her character would be in the movie, and then update the likeness to Carrie Fisher. It would be a huge improvement for the figure and fill a hole that is in a lot of people's collections. Coming in at the number 4 spot is a Revenge of the Sith Anakin, and this one needs a remake for several reasons. For one, he's just absurdly expensive on the aftermarket, being one of Anakin's most iconic versions of his outfit. You know, it's Revenge of the Sith. It's the movie that made him from Anakin to Vader. It's super iconic, and because of this, the price of the figure is upwards of $100 on the aftermarket. Now, the original version of this had some pretty poor paint apps on the face, as well as a white skirt for the robe, which was not accurate at all. I'm not sure why this is, but it needed improvement, and so they did release him in 2019, a part of the archive line, updating the photoreal on the face, as well as changing the, bottom of the skirt to a brownish color to actually fit the color of his robes. But unfortunately, this archive version is still a little dated. The photoreal is not perfect. While it's pretty good for archive line figures, it's not the best. The articulation as well, his arm articulation is honestly very poor. It doesn't even get close to 90, and he could use some update to pinless legs. So I think he kind of stands his ground as a figure right now, but if they were to make a remake, it would just introduce a lot of stuff that would greatly improve this figure. Coming in at the number 3 spot is Bespin Luke. Now this, again, I know I've said it a lot, but is one of Luke's most iconic outfits in the line. It's the one where he lost his hand in his duel to Vader, one of the most powerful scenes in all of Star Wars, and it's honestly one of my favorites. But the figure they have to represent this scene is very poor, articulation's horrible, and the likeness to Mark Hamill is even worse. Now, in 2020, Hasbro did release the Dagobah Luke, which actually remade the legs of this outfit with the pinless look, and it is incredible. Now, this just gave us a glimmer of hope for what we could see as part of that 40th anniversary wave for Bespin Luke, but unfortunately, Bespin Luke was just re-released with an updated face, which the updated face was nice, but seeing these legs could have made a brand new Bespin Luke, which would have been incredible. All they really have to do now is make a new torso and arms, and this Luke is going to be one of the best Lukes in the line, hands down, but they haven't done that yet, and all they've really done is give us a glimmer of hope with how good these legs are. Then coming in at the number 2 spot is another Empire Strikes Back figure, and that is Boba Fett. And overall, this figure is not that bad. I think it gets the job done, and for being the first ever Black Series figure designed, it's not bad. Again, it held up for the time it was released, but they did release the brand new Return of the Jedi version, which is leaps and bounds better, and after seeing that version and seeing what they can do to make a proper Boba Fett, this Empire Strikes Back version looks like a piece of trash. And overall, this wouldn't be a very hard remake. All you would have to do is maybe remold and repaint a few pieces on the Return of the Jedi version, but then this Empire Strikes Back version, again, would be one of the best versions in all of figure form because that Return of the Jedi version is incredible. Coming in at the number 1 spot, this should surprise no one, and it is the Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan Kenobi. This figure was updated in the archive line just recently with the photoreal, but he has a peanut-sized head, and so the photoreal does him no justice. Articulation is already very poor, and overall, he could desperately use a brand new mold. And again, I know I've used Iconic a lot in this video, but this is definitely Ewan McGregor's most iconic version of Obi-Wan, so... And honestly, it's probably his most popular version. Revenge of the Sith is a very popular movie now, and it's one of the fans' favorites nowadays. And unfortunately, we don't have a ton of great figures to go with the movie. So this one would desperately need a re-release, head to toe. I think all of the new Jedi bodies they've been doing have been great, and if they can just repaint it to look like the Revenge of the Sith version, it would do this figure a ton of justice. Anyway, guys, that is my top 10. If you guys do disagree, make sure to leave a comment down below and let me know what you guys would put in your top 10 list. So if you did enjoy, hit the like button, subscribe, and if you do want to support the channel in another way, consider hitting that join button down below and becoming a channel member. Channel members do get an exclusive clone badge next to their name, which gets cooler as you progress as a member each month, as well as some super cool emojis you can only get on my channel. So if you guys did enjoy, the like button, and I'll see y'all in the next video.